Reggie.
T.
Here we are back again. You know, last podcast we did, we got real emotional. We got really attached to it. We got really animated about it. And you know, as I look back at the topic we talked about, DEI and all the things we need to do as a people, I'm reminded of a post or reel that I shared with you, and it was an interview where Harry Belafonte and Andy Young had a conversation with Dr. King 5 days before he was assassinated. Let's take a look at that video.
Last thing Dr. King ever said to me 5 days, as a matter of fact, before he was murdered, was he was at my home. He had just finished a strategy meeting on the Poor People's Campaign. And he seemed quite agitated after what we thought was a very successful gathering and discussion. And he said to me, I said, what's the matter, Martin? You seem very agitated. He said, well, I am. Because I've come upon a thought that I don't know how to deal with at this moment. I said, well, what is it? He said, we fought long for integration. It looks like we're going to get it. I think we get the laws. He says, but I'm afraid that I've come upon something I don't know quite what to do with. I'm afraid that we're integrating into a burning house. And when we asked for further clarification, Andy Young was with me at that time, my wife, others. He said, America's lost whatever little moral vision it had. Its moral sense has run away from the nation. And a nation that is not governed by morality and moral principles is a nation that's headed for an abyss. And I think black people have been struggling to get into this system, maybe getting into a system that in the final analysis is a Sodom and Gomorrah, will not work. Because its selfish goals, its need for profit, its need for supremacy, its need to be the best has clouded its moral vision. And with no moral vision, no nation can be healthy enough to lead its people anywhere except to destruction.
Wow. Again,
Wow.
when you think about the wisdom, and we always talk about the fact that, you know, the interview that they did with Byron Allen, and he asked, Coretta Scott King told him the difference in the Martin that we knew and the Martin that they assassinated. And I think this was the Martin that they assassinated when he came to this rude awakening that I'm integrating my people into a burning house. That's monumental, Reggie, for him to say that, to know that 5 days before he was assassinated.
But I think the other thing is people realize you can't talk about finance and employment and business and generating wealth and all those other things. So he was fighting for civil rights, equal rights first. I need us to get equal rights. Then we can move to. So the other thing people need to listen to his speech on The Other America.
You know, we watched that, 100
We
times?
watched 100 times. But what was the essence of The Other America?
Finance.
It was about money and finances,
right.
and us starting to change and building up. So he had the process in order, and then, and some people would say that that's the reason why. When you started dealing with money and power as opposed to equal rights, then that some people would say that's maybe one of the reasons why he was assassinated.
I'm reminded when you think about the DEI and all those things that we talked about in the last podcast. He made a statement, and I'm paraphrasing. He said it's a shame or it's a catastrophe for you to tell a man to pull himself up by his bootstraps when the man don't have no boots at all.
That's right.
That scared me. That was so deep. I was like, man, you can't.
When you tell me you should be able to do A, B, C, D, when you've had, okay, I don't want to digress, but you know, on the last podcast, it appears as though I might have been a little angry, but I wasn't angry, but I was mad.
Just a little, yeah.
Oh, you know me better than most.
Yeah.
Would you say, you know, it's not that I was angry, but I was mad. But I'm not talking about anger mad, because when you're anger mad, you can't think. It started clouding your views.
Yeah.
But let me tell you what that means to me. Not anger mad, but mad. And this is the challenge I have to our community. And I want to redefine our community again as we move forward into this period of uncertainty. But the uncertainty doesn't have to be. This is about having faith. Faith allows me to move forward, take action to do something. So mad for me is make a difference. That's the reason why we're training and teaching people, showing people since our last podcast, we've shown various people how to create a community.
Well, you know, we met with one of our principals to introduce this new concept. Well, it's not a new concept, but it's what we want to do when you talk about working around literacy. and in particular literacy with our young black boys.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at the numbers around the country, the number of men that are actually represented in education and the reading scores amongst black boys, they kind of correlate. Mm-hmm. Because the number of black men that are in education are low, mm-hmm. and the reading scores for black males across the country, they are very low. So let's talk a little bit about those numbers when we look at that before we go into not just talking about that thing you like to say, education or freedom with no education, you're not free.
You're not free.
So what about those numbers?
So let's look at it. There are some states like Georgia, Mississippi, Virginia, that the black male population hovers around 15 to 18% black males. Mm-hmm. Say, well, if it's 18% or 15% of the black male of the population in Georgia are black males, but then only 4% are black male educators. There's a gap there.
Major.
And that's a major gap. But then I also say, let's look at, of those 18%, how many of those black males, or 15, 18%, how many of them are formally educated? And so, as opposed to looking at the incarceration rates, where we're at the 70, 75 percentile. And so when you start looking at these numbers, you see that there's not a lot of room. And so we have to be mad to make a difference. We have to double down. Just because your family is taken care of, you still need to adopt another component of the community. I'm not talking about bringing people in your home, but paying it forward. And so when you start looking at those numbers, you have to ask yourself, how do we get beyond this? How do we build more communities? Thus, reach out to us. Our information will be on the website. But it's all about taking a cause and paying it forward and building a foundation around that when you start looking at those type of numbers in the state of Georgia.
So when you look at those disproportionate numbers, the number of black men in education and the number of black boys that don't see men. You know, one of my favorite statements, in order to be a man, I got to see a man.
I see a man.
And if I don't see a man,
that's right,
I don't have a real fair chance of becoming a real, what we like to say, men, just an everyday brother. Not a basketball player, not a rapper, not an actor.
What's the definition of a role model? You know, their talent, that's great. Some of them are still being great role models. Mm-hmm. But because you can play great, we all love sports. All our boys want to be. I wanted to be, all of us love sports. I still watch it. But just because you can entertain or just because you can sing, dribble, play basketball, that's great. I'm not saying that's the only thing, right, but there's another aspect here of being around and being part of the community.
We talked about in our initial podcast our unlikely meetings. And you growing up in Bankhead Court, I grew up in Southwest Atlanta, and I can tell you who my role models were. On my left was Mr. Ector. Across from him was Mr. Collins. Across from him was Mr. Smith, the man that taught me how to work with my hands. Across from there was Alex Jansen, dad, and Mr. Jansen.
5, 6.
Next door to me on my right was Mr. Willis.
7.
Next to Mr. Willis was Mr. Hood.
8.
Up the street around the corner was Mr. Wilson.
9.
Going up was Dempsey Daddy.
10.
Tina Daddy.
Stop. Guess what? You just named me right on your street.
Clover Street.
And I can tell you in my entire community of 600-700 apartments in the hood. Moved out there in 1969. One man.
To be a man.
One man. So who were my role models? My brothers. They were not equipped. And so we have a responsibility. It's a blessing to be born. You know, who your parents are matters. But guess what? Sure. My mother did the best she could with the limited resources that she had. But what we're talking about is you cannot stay in your cocoon and say, my family is okay, and think that it's okay. Because otherwise, don't you know Dr. King's children miss him? He died so early.
38.
Don't you know Mega Effort's children miss him? Yeah. He died in his 30s.
Right.
Don't you know Malcolm X's children missed him, his grandchildren that he now, but those people were so selfless. What happened? Who funded the civil rights movement? Entertainers.
Not taking that away. Yeah.
Not taking away. They funded it though.
Right.
They funded Dr. King and all the other leaders. They funded and supported because they were doing the work. Right. Sammy Davis Jr. and
Franklin.
Aretha Franklin. I can keep going.
Right.
They funded. Look at the sacrifice some of our people made.
So when we talk about moving it forward and we talk about the absence of black men and we talk about the title or the name of our organization,
A nonprofit.
A nonprofit.
Not absent, right here.
We thought about that on the road trip.
That's right.
And we were having a conversation about, we know too many brothers, just like us, that want to do this kind of work.
That's right.
But they need a blueprint. They want a roadmap. They want it to be not a heavy lift.
That's right.
But they want you, baby, to walk into it and walk into the school and say, this is what we need you to do when they walk in the door.
That's right.
With no questions asked. So we said we're going to put together a roadmap for them so they understand that the thing that we want you to do is come in and be present in these kids' lives, and we want you to emphasize the value in reading. Show them there's a joy in reading. Show them that you like reading. Pick up some of the favorite things you love reading, the things you like talking about. But there is an art form and a science to reading. So how do we get, we've talked about the fact of taking those brothers from the age, anywhere from 20 all the way up to 72, if they can still, we don't even care up to 80, if they really still are willing to do the work.
That's right.
And come in those school buildings and say, not absent, we're right here.
But see, Tony, again, just like we talked about taking it back, let's look back from whence we came. I think we have to look at the data and look at what's the reason why we're suggesting we need to do this first. So before we can say let's do it, let's make sure we understand there's a problem.
So let's take care. Let's just look at our state, our home state.
Okay, I'm going to do that. But tell me, what was the saying by Frederick Douglass about the house on fire? What was that he was saying?
Oh, he was actually from his garrison, from the guy that worked with him. He talked about the fact that, if my house is on fire, you can't tell me to go get to it later. That's an immediate thing that I need to take care of. I want to go in and get my family out, my belongings out. I can't wait on that. I got to deal with that fire right now. So he became what we call an immediatist.
An immediatist. And what's an immediatist?
It's somebody that said, we got to do this now.
We have to do this now.
You can't wait.
So I brought that up that way, Tony, because now I want to show people, I want to tell people, not anything I came up with, nothing we came up with, why there's a need to have. First of all, did you define what not absent right here is? I'm going to ask you to come back. And it's going to come together. I think
after we go through the process, people understand what the name is.
I got it.
Yeah. So talk about those numbers when you're talking about just in the state of Georgia alone.
Go ahead. So let's look at it this way. So the state of Georgia has two pieces of legislation over the last couple of years. The first one is from the House, and it's House Bill 538. And House Bill 538 mandates that all students in the state of Georgia will be reading on grade level by the third grade. I think that's okay. I think it's okay.
Yeah, boy, what happened to all those kids that passed the third grade?
I understand, but right now they're saying starting here.
Let's stop the bleeding.
Let's stop the bleeding. So they're saying there are two things we use in our training. We talked about being reactive and we talk about being proactive. Right. This is a proactive approach to a problem here. And then the second bill is Senate Bill 211. Both bills focuses on what we need to do around literacy. As an example, in some of our states, Georgia, Mississippi, and other states, I'm just going to use one as an example. If I go into a school or a system, and the problem didn't get created overnight, and 50+% of my third, fifth, and eighth graders are reading below grade level.
What eighth graders, Reggie?
Say that again?
Which eighth graders? Which third graders?
Black.
Okay.
I want to make sure. If I go into a school and the data says across the state 20-some% of whites or 20-some% of all students, 30-some% of all students are reading below grade level, or white students, and we can look at the actual data. We'll put the data up. But if I have 20-some% of white students reading below grade level in the third, fifth, and eighth grade, but then I say that the same instruments being measured is 50-some% of my third, fifth, and eighth grade black students are reading below grade level.
50 plus.
50 plus.
Wow.
That's a problem.
Wow.
And now, that's black students. If I disaggregate the data and I pull the black young ladies out and I say the black boys, we talked to some principals today and they told us the numbers are even higher among black boys. So if I have 70-some% of my black boys who can't read, then how am I going to participate in a capitalist world, in an economy that's about robotics and, I mean, the data is there. And so what we're saying is, The only way we can combat that is to support the schools. And what principals are asking for, don't come in here. We need your help, parents. You have a responsibility. Coaches, you have a responsibility. But we're starting this initiative and to show other communities how to get more entities not absent right here. In other words, black men are not absent. We're right here in the schools with you. And so we're connecting, not just, we're taking mentoring to another level. Buddy readers, reading buddies.
Reading buddies.
We're saying we have 5 different programs on how to implement. We'll get more detail around it. But what we are saying is that we want more black men in the school showing our black boys that reading is great. But the focus isn't just reading, it's letting them see that reading is fun. Getting a book for them, buying a book for them, a book of their interest. Because the issue here, and I forgot the young man, if you would, I want to pop that video up that talks about the young man you talked about.
Yeah.
3 years old, I believe.
3 years old, Terrence.
How old is he?
Terrence.
Good morning, Terrence.
Good morning.
Could you spell your name, please?
Terrance.
Great job. When's your birthday?
August 16, 2021.
Good job. How old are you?
3.
Great job, Terrence. You ready to do some sight words?
Yeah.
Okay. What word is
I
that?
do sight words at home.
Good job. That makes you very smart, right?
You're right.
Good job. What word is that?
Make. Fall.
Mm-hmm.
Down. Come. Can. Blue. And. Purple. Red. C.
Good job.
The.
Mm-hmm.
The number 2.
Good job, Terrence.
Funny.
Mm-hmm.
Me.
Great job.
Drink.
Mm-hmm.
And 3. Look.
Good job.
Little.
Mm-hmm.
Jump.
Great job.
2.
Mm-hmm.
Run.
What's that?
Run.
Mm-hmm.
5.
Great job.
Here. 7.
You're doing good, Terrence.
1.
Mm-hmm.
9.
Great job.
I.
Mm-hmm.
Go. It's.
Mm-hmm.
Is.
Great job.
In.
Good job.
A.
Mm-hmm.
Play. Away.
Mm-hmm.
Big.
Good job.
Not.
Great job.
You.
What's that one?
You.
Mm-hmm.
Up.
Great job.
We. Well.
Great job. What's this last one, Terrence?
Yellow.
Could you use yellow in a sentence?
My favorite color is yellow.
Great job, Terrence. Could you use where in a sentence?
Where are you going?
Great job. Could you use we in a sentence?
We are going to the store.
Great job, Terrence. Could you use up in a sentence?
We're going up the stairs.
We're going up the stairs. Good job. Could you use you in a sentence?
You are going to the store.
Great job. Could you use not in a sentence?
You're not playing with toys.
Great job, Terrence. Could you use big in a sentence?
You're so big, Daddy.
Good job, Terrence. Could you use away in a sentence?
My mommy take everything away.
My mommy take everything away. Good job, big boy. Good job, Terrence.
We say Terrence is the standard bearer for us.
Yes.
When you talk about reading, because if your 3-year-old is not doing this, you're not on par with doing this work. So when we look at how do we get this going, I think about the fact that Terrence had a man in his life, because I think one of the words he had to make a sentence with was big. And he said, Daddy, you are so big.
Yeah, but then he said another one. That's right, T. He said, Daddy, so. But then he said another one, Tony. He said in there, he said, when my mother, what was it? When I don't.
My mommy's going to take this away.
My mother takes things away.
Like
I do sight words at home.
Yeah.
Who's at home? Mom, Dad,
Yeah.
people practicing with her. So it's not just the school's responsibility. 3rd grader. No, not the 3rd grade. A 3-year-old who's reading sight words.
Right.
Very articulate, well-spoken.
When you think about the reading piece, it's not the most exciting thing in the world, and that's our fault, because we let it drop and we let it fall by the wayside. We got to put the excitement back in reading. I remember we used to wait on the newspaper to come, if nothing else, to get the cartoons. And then as you got older, you had to share, you had to share the sports session with your dad, but you didn't read it before you read it. And then as you got older, you started reading up on current events. But the whole process was that reading was exciting and it was relevant. So reading we've let it not be the topic of discussion, and we're not going to let it fall by the wayside because this is our bloodstained banner, right?
That's right.
If people can't read, they can't succeed.
You know, our work has been around culture and climate for the last 20 years. And we would go in school, principal told us last week that the differences in his school is because he started with the culture and climate based on our work. The evolution of this is we realized all the culture and climate work we were doing, we found out sometimes 7% of our black boys couldn't read. So we decided, hey, we have to do something a little different.
Now,
we want to
we gotta
keep
do
what we're
something now.
doing for our business, but now to start up this nonprofit, Not Absent right here, is paying it forward. That we're also addressing, and what do we need to do to help coaches? Coaches, we have a process on how you need to incorporate this in, and if you're not, then we're doing a disservice to our young people. And so that's what this is about, coaches, auxiliaries, churches, others. Let us show you why there's a problem, and then how to go in and work with schools, because schools want their help.
They want
if
their
it's
help,
going to
right.
help. We're not talking about you going in and helping them with discipline issues and etc. We're not
teaching,
talking about that.
or teaching, with just your presence.
We are saying your presence and what you can do on a consistent basis to help. And it's as simple as, it could be as simple as you buying 2 books, one for the young man who's interested in whatever he's interested in, and one for
the
you,
lover.
and y'all become reading buddies, and we connect that process together, and we go through the process of helping to identify. So the heavy lift is going to be done by our organization. Again, Not Absent right here. I sarcastically said our current president, I will say he is the president of the United States, our current president gave us a roadmap to success. And that roadmap is around empowerment,
And when you mention,
self-preservation, doing the things we need to do to build our own community.
but you also mentioned sarcasm because you said he made reference to making Dr. Dream's
right.
ideals of reality.
I listened to the speech, and I believe, I'm hoping that it becomes a reality. And what the exact, I'm summarizing what the words were, but he said, thank you, blacks and Hispanics, Hispanic population, something like that, African Americans or blacks and Hispanics. Thank you for voting for me. Basically, the confidence you have in me becoming president, those that voted for me. And my job is to make Dr. King's dream come alive or reality. Would that tell me that's hope? But then I would say hope is not a method. There is no hope without opportunity. I'm saying show me the opportunities, what you're going to do. And canceling DEI, now what are you going to put in place? So it's one thing to cancel DEI, it's another thing to put something else in place that's going to make things better based on merit. You can't legislate people's hearts. So that's my second thing I want to talk. And then finally, Tony, this whole Not Absent right here, my boys can't read. I have a responsibility. And then financial literacy, we gotta teach us about the art of money and what money means in a capitalist society, so you are not left on the bottom of the totem pole, leaving legacies of understanding what that means. And then we want to share and show you how to build your community. I belong to 8 communities. The commonality, they all are black, but they have different roles, function around those 8 different communities that I belong to. That's beyond the geography of where I live.
Reggie, I would say it matters not how straight the gate, how charged with the punishment the scroll. For we are the masters of our fate. We're the captains of our soul. Let's get out of here.
Put that mirror in your face.
2 men in the stool.
2 men in the stool. Look in the mirror, point the finger, you have one pointing back at you.
See you the next time.
Thank you.